Hi everyone, it's Winnie. Welcome back to my channel. Jag är Winnie och jag kommer nyssla touch ni e bashin tochi ni e dashe. Senjikene e dashanala look on tail nasha akut ego asan dinishla. Today, you guys, we're gonna do a sit down video, and it's to talk to you guys about one of the downsides of fostering. I promote fostering on my channel. I promote trying to help homeless animals on the Navajo reservation on my channel, but I also didn't want to just give the impression that fostering is just sunshine and rainbows. There are some downsides, few downsides, only a few thankfully, but since I promote it so much, I do want to be honest and tell you guys at least one thing that can make it kind of difficult when it comes to fostering. Thankfully, it's not a terrible thing. I know there could be far worse outcomes when it comes to fostering, and thankfully this one still has a happy ending, but I did want to be honest with you. So if you guys follow me on Instagram, you might have seen that we just took in a foster about 2 weeks ago and one day. 2 weeks ago and one day we brought in a foster. Her name is Darla, and we fostered her for 2 weeks and one day. And during those 2 weeks, we figured out that she wasn't a good fit for us, or we weren't a good fit for her. I'm not really sure how you want to look at it, but sad to say, it didn't work out for us, and I'll explain the reasons why. But let me explain to you that out of the 4 years that we've been fostering, it's only happened twice now. Like once a couple years ago, and now with Darla, it will be the second time that a foster didn't work out for us. And both times thankfully, it wasn't because it was a terrible thing, like a bad thing, or like they got sick and we had to put them down or anything like that. It was purely like we weren't vibing with each other, and that can be something that can be difficult. So let's rewind to the first time that we weren't able to see a foster through. This was about, I want to say 3 or 4 years ago. The dog's name was April, and she was a pit bull. I'll put a picture here if you remember her. And she came to us. She was found along a dirt road on the Navajo reservation, and we brought her in for foster. She was with us for, I believe, a week, and during that week we realized that she was high energy. She liked to jump on furniture, and at the same time we also got some weird food aggression vibes from her, which, if you remember Phoebe's story from when she first came to us, she had been through a lot. She had been attacked by either a dog or a coyote, and she had already been through a lot of trauma. So it kind of made me concerned that there was some food aggression vibes there, and I didn't want Phoebe to get, you know, the bad end of it. And at the same time, one morning when Sam had let April out to do her business, stretch her legs and run, because like I said, she was a high energy dog, he made his coffee, sat down, was eating his breakfast, and he noticed that he was hearing something outside. So he looked and he saw that April was chewing the siding of the apartment. So that concerned us. So we called the rescue and let them know that maybe this might not be a good fit for her, and they were quick to figure something out, thankfully, and they were able to find a new foster home for her. So now fast forward to Darla, the second time that we weren't able to see a foster through to adoption or either transport. Darla, by looking at her, you wouldn't be able to tell that she was kind of difficult. And I don't even want to say difficult in the sense that she was a bad puppy. Like, she was great. She was adorable. She was a happy puppy. She played and she loved to cuddle, and she wanted to play with Bandit and Phoebe, and that's not where the issue came from. The issue with Darla came when it was time to do our own thing, either go to bed for the night or go to work or be upstairs and get ready for work or do chores or whatever. If it meant her being in her crate, she objected very loudly and for several hours. And what I mean by that is she would cry, high-pitched cries. She would bark, and it would go on for hours and hours. During the day, it would carry on. During the night, it would carry on. And it started taking its toll on Bandit and Phoebe, Sam and myself, and even our neighbors on the other side of the wall. And when I say when it took its toll on Bandit and Phoebe are both potty trained. They get along with other dogs. They're not aggressive. They're they're good dogs, but when it came to Darla, they seemed to just want to be upstairs and just be away from her. And what made us really concerned was that they're potty trained. Both of them are potty trained. Phoebe does have a pee pad downstairs because she does have a smaller bladder. She can't hold it as long as Bandit. So in those rare instances where she needs to use the bathroom, she uses her pee pad. But it's pretty rare that she uses her pee pad. Usually she's good because we take her out before bed. We take them out as soon as we wake up. We take them out right before work. We take them out as soon as we get home. We take them out a few times in between all those. So she's not really prone to accidents. Bandit, he's a senior dog. He's fully house trained. He can hold it longer for, longer than Phoebe, of course. But they were both having accidents inside, and it was because we think because of the stress that Darla was causing. It made us concerned because we had never seen this type of behavior from either one of them before. And it started about 2 weeks ago. Moving on to Sam and I. Sam is a very light sleeper, and like I mentioned before, if Darla needed to be in her crate and we needed to do our own thing, she would bark, she would cry. And of course, if I was at work and Sam was trying to sleep, he couldn't get his sleep. So we noticed that he was feeling more tired, he was more irritable, and then it started affecting me. Yesterday, I was struggling to stay awake because I hadn't had really good sleep in a while. It was to the point where I was really concerned. I was like, do I need to go to the hospital? Because I just couldn't keep my eyes open. And it turned out I just needed to sleep, like a lot of sleep. And then maybe a week ago, when Darla was crying in the middle of the night at 2 a.m., our neighbor on the other side of the wall, because we share a wall with our neighbor, he actually knocked on the wall, which to me, it translates to, you need to be quiet over there. Because, I grew up with siblings, and I had a roommate, and I lived in apartment complexes. Whenever I was the one knocking on the wall, I was trying to tell the person on the other side to, can you quiet down? So that's how I interpreted it, and it didn't make me feel good because it was having an effect on Ben and Phoebe, having an effect on Sam and I, and even our neighbor. And I honestly didn't know what to do because other than my first time with April, this hadn't happened before. And within 4 years, only having 2 instances where I couldn't deal with a foster, it still makes me feel terrible because I do want to see them through until adoption or transport, and that just wasn't in the cards for Darla. And luckily, both instances where we couldn't see the foster through, both instances, the rescue organizations, they were very understanding. They were able to figure out solutions really quickly. They didn't make me feel bad, neither one of them, and I'm very thankful for that. In fact, the rescue coordinator person, when she came to pick up Darla tonight, she's like, oh, you know what, it's gonna be totally fine because she's most likely going to her new home tomorrow, which made me feel really good. But then at the same time, I was like, I still didn't see this one through technically. That's just kind of an insight as to one of the instances when fostering can have, its downside. Thankfully, this doesn't happen too often because we've fostered so many animals throughout the years, and the only animal that comes to mind when it comes to crying was Peanut. If you remember Peanut, I want to say 2 summers ago, 2018, I believe. He was the little puppy that my mom found in her woodpile. Somebody just kind of somehow put him there, and that first night was really tough because he cried every 2 hours because he still needed milk. And then he slept for like 2 days. He would still eat. Slept for 2 days, and then he was good as new. And he slept throughout the nights, didn't cry, didn't object to being put in his crate. That was the only other time when crying kind of came into play. I don't know, it just makes me feel like I didn't accomplish what I set out to do. Even though the outcome could have been a lot worse, it was because she wouldn't stop crying during the day, during the night. And Sam and I have full-time jobs. It's hard for us to devote an entire day to making sure that she's out the whole day so she doesn't cry. Like I said, thankfully both rescues, they were more than willing to help us. And I think what also came into consideration was that we don't want to get burnt out from this. I don't ever want to have that feeling that I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to foster anymore, because I know that fosters are something that these rescues need, and I find it very rewarding. I find it very fulfilling that this is something that I like, something that I like doing and enjoy doing. And I'm glad that even though this instance or this particular foster, this foster puppy didn't work out for us, I still don't get the feeling that I want to quit. I don't, like, I'm gonna foster again. We're gonna take a break, of course, for Bandit and Phoebe's sanity. But I'm still gonna foster. I'm still gonna continue. If anything, it was just kind of like a bump in the road. And Sam said it perfectly when he said that this is a learning experience. Even after 4 years, we got thrown a curveball and it just didn't work out. Even though fostering Darla was pretty easy when it was time to like play with her and that sort of stuff. When it came time to going to bed and being away from her, going to work, she would cry a lot. And that just wasn't fair to our own dogs that live here. I mean, they're the pets. This is their home. And any fosters that come in, they're essentially guests. And it didn't seem fair to ask Sam to continue to miss out on sleep. And it certainly didn't feel fair for our neighbors on the other side of the wall if they're knocking on the wall because she's crying so loud. I'm glad that she's most likely going to her permanent home tomorrow. I'm glad that this fostering experience ended on a somewhat better note than it could have ended. If you have fostered, you know that sometimes puppies get sick and sometimes you have to take them to the vet, and sometimes they have to say, we can't save your puppy or whatever. And I'm glad this wasn't one of those instances. I know that one day, unfortunately, that may happen to us, but I'm glad that that's not one of those instances today. But I just wanted to be honest with you because I promote rescue and fostering on my channel. Sometimes there's downsides, sometimes it's not all sunshine and rainbows. I feel like if we had our own home and not neighbors on the other side, and if we worked from home, it would have been a different outcome for Darla. She probably would still be hanging out with us. But it just didn't seem fair to Bandit and Phoebe that they couldn't even go downstairs to drink water because she was down there, and they just wanted to be away from her, and her constant barking and crying. And I don't know, I just didn't want them to feel like prisoners in their own home, if that makes sense. That's what happened with Darla. You would have never guessed that it didn't work out because she was such a cute puppy. We just couldn't figure out how to get her to stop crying and calm down, that sort of stuff. Usually in the past it ends after about 2 days and they're like, cool, I'll just sleep in my crate, I'm safe, and you'll come back to me and I'll be okay. But for whatever reason, Darla just wasn't catching on. So anyway, I do want to talk about my shirt while we're here. This is not sponsored, but I have a shirt here from Black Hat Humane Society, And you can purchase the shirt if you want to support some of the animals. If you go to blackhathumanesociety.org, you can buy their merch. I foster for them, so they sent me this, I don't know, as a thank you, I guess. They didn't ask me to promote them or anything. I just wore it because it just seems like the thing to do if I promote rescue, that type of stuff. But I'm sure if you decide to just purchase a shirt or a calendar or whatever, they'd be very appreciative. Like I said, not sponsored. I'm affiliated in the sense that I foster for them, but that's where it ends. So anyway, that's the tea on Darla, if you're curious. Thankfully she's most likely going to her permanent home tomorrow, so there's that. And we're gonna take a break. Like I said, Bandit and Phoebe, they need a break from fosters right now because we had just gotten Amy adopted out. We took like a couple, like maybe a week off, and then we got Darla. So I think they need a break. Sam and I definitely need a break. And yeah, so that's this week's video. If you are interested in helping some of the homeless animals on the Navajo reservation, links are down below for some of my favorite rescues. Black Hat Humane Society is on there. And don't forget to spay, neuter, vaccinate, tag, and microchip your pets. While you're at it, go ahead and put a collar on them since you're putting a tag on them. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.